Hello, everyone. What if the darkest memory from your childhood was never just your imagination? Imagine lying in bed, the room silent, and realizing you're not alone. A shadow stands at the edge of your bed, watching, waiting. And the scariest part? It never leaves, even when you close your eyes. Childhood often carries the image of warm sunlight, innocent laughter, and the feeling of safety wrapped within familiar walls. Yet beneath this veil lies something deeper, something darker that rarely finds its way into bedtime stories. Memories formed in early years are fragile, but when stained by fear, they become as sharp as broken glass, cutting into the mind long after the moment has passed. It begins with small things, the kinds adults dismiss as imagination, yet for a child they are far too real. A shadow that lingers in the corner of a room where no shadow should be. A whisper in silence. A movement in stillness. Fear grows quickly in young hearts, fed by the unknown. Unlike adults who explain things away, children are forced to face the mystery. Each creak of a floorboard becomes a warning, each flicker of light a signal. Innocence is the perfect soil for horror to grow. There was a night when silence carried a weight heavier than thunder, pressing against the walls and floor. Lying awake in a bed too big for comfort, eyes searched the room for safety, but found only darkness. From the corner came a faint shape, taller than anything familiar, standing so still that time itself seemed to freeze. Breath caught in the throat, the heart beat in uneven rhythms, as though trying to hide its sound. The shape did not move, yet the feeling of being watched grew stronger, burrowing into the skin. Imagination might have been blamed, but the gaze felt real, piercing and endless. Shadows play tricks, yes, but not with such intensity. Fear turned minutes into hours, each blink a chance for the shape to vanish or advance. It remained, and the night dragged on without mercy. The mind of a child does not ask for proof. It accepts the world as it feels it. That night, the shape in the corner was not just darkness, it was a presence that claimed the room. There were no footsteps, no sound to explain it, yet silence itself screamed louder than any voice. Every attempt to close the eyes only made the dread sharper, as though something waited for that very moment. The bed that once felt like safety now seemed like a cage, too small to escape, too open to hide. The corners of the room stretched endlessly, filled with the possibility of movement unseen. It was not merely fear of the dark, but fear of what breathed within it. When dawn finally came, the shape was gone, yet the memory had already carved itself into stone. That kind of fear is not easily forgotten. The following nights carried the same invisible weight, a sense of being followed into dreams and back into waking. It was not always seen, but it was always felt. A silent observer lingering just beyond reach. Even laughter during the day could not erase it, for shadows waited patiently for night to return. A sound at the edge of hearing, like faint breathing or a low hum, would stir the same frozen terror. Adults may have dismissed it as tricks of the mind, but for the one who experienced it, it was more real than daylight. Imagination is powerful, but imagination does not leave the heart racing hours after the sound is gone. The worst part was not the fear of what it was, but the fear of not knowing. Mystery itself can become the cruelest form of horror. What makes these memories disturbing is not only the moment itself, but the way the mind fills in the gaps. When something cannot be explained, it becomes larger, heavier, darker in thought than in reality. A child has no weapons against such things, no reasoning strong enough to scatter the shadows. Instead, each unanswered question grows into a story told by fear. And fear is an expert storyteller. It does not need details to terrify, it thrives in silence and uncertainty. The shape in the corner became more than a shadow. It became an entity, one that could return at any time. It was no longer just a part of the night, but part of the mind. Long after childhood ended, the memory clung like a second skin, impossible to shake off. Even as years pass, the smallest details return with frightening clarity. The coldness of the air that night, the way silence seemed alive, the fixed position of that dark form, all replay in perfect sequence. The brain may forget many things, but fear is an archivist that never loses its work. The thought of that moment becomes a weight carried into adulthood, hidden yet never gone. Nights in new places, unfamiliar rooms, even the safest environments can trigger the same unease. It begins the same way: silence, stillness, and the awareness of being watched. Perhaps the shadow was nothing more than a trick of tired eyes, but the effect was permanent. That is the true cruelty of childhood horror. It endures when it should have faded. These experiences change how one looks at the world, turning safe spaces into uncertain ground. A bedroom is not simply a place of rest, but a stage where silence holds power. Darkness is not absence, but presence, filled with endless possibilities of what might exist unseen. Even the simplest sounds, a window rattling, a floorboard sighing, become signals of something waiting. The mind becomes trained to anticipate, to expect the worst before it arrives. Fear becomes both an enemy and a companion, shaping habits, choices, and the way one reacts to the world. What others laugh off as childish imagination remains as a scar in thought. Sometimes the most terrifying things are not what we see, but what we remember seeing. It is often said that children are closer to truth than adults, that their eyes catch what others dismiss. Whether it was real or not matters less than the fact that it was felt. And feelings, especially those born in childhood, grow roots deeper than reason can ever reach. This is why the memory remains, unshaken, unchanged, and sharp as the day it happened. Each return to the thought is like walking into the same room, facing the same shape, reliving the same night. Memory does not fade when it is built on fear. It strengthens, solidifies, and defines. And so, what began as a single night becomes a lifetime companion. Innocence lost is never regained. Safety, once broken, is never rebuilt. The line between imagination and reality is thin, but in childhood, it does not exist at all. What is felt becomes truth. What is seen becomes permanent. A shadow in the corner is no longer just a shadow, it is a haunting, a reminder, a scar that whispers through years. This is the nature of disturbing childhood memories. They linger, they gnaw, they survive even when everything else is forgotten. To some, it was only a dark room, only a restless night, only a child's fear. But to the one who lived it was more than enough to shape an entire lifetime of silence and unease. Sometimes, the monsters that matter most are not the ones that lurk beneath the bed, but the ones that live in memory, forever watching from the corners of the mind.